you. Thank you. Thank you. After those remarks by Senator Turner and the field of burn, it feels very warm in this room, I'll tell you that. Well, I want to thank Senator Nina Turner not only for her support in this campaign, but for her years of work on behalf of working people, a fight for racial and social justice. And I want to thank Rachel Sellis and Mr. Sonzeko and Michelle Mahon and Kurt Hess and Gerald Goins and Humble G and the Reverend C.J. Harkness, all for participating in this event, and mostly on a beautiful morning. That was a joke. It's not a beautiful morning. I want to thank all of you for coming on out to discuss some very serious issues. You know, as Senator Turner indicated, what this campaign is about is taking a hard look at where we are and where we want to go. And one of the differences, I think, in this campaign between my opponents and me is I believe that our nation, when we stand together, when we don't allow the Donald Trumps and others of this world to divide us up, I believe that there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. So this campaign is about understanding that we today are the wealthiest country in the history of the world. But most people don't know that. And they don't know that because they're too busy working 50 or 60 hours a week to know that almost all of the new wealth and income being created is going to the top 1%. So what this campaign is about is not only asking people to envisage a new America, but also to understand that no president, not Bernie Sanders or anybody else, can do it alone. And this is what Senator Turner was talking about. Every person in this room is enormously powerful if you choose to use your power. And every person in this room is enormously powerless if you choose not to use that power. So here is the issue. Here is the issue. The issue is that when millions of people come together and they stand up and they say, you know what? In America, men and women have fought and died. And as the former chairman of the Senate Veterans Committee, I've had the opportunity to meet with some great heroes and heroines. And you know what they did? They put their lives on the line from World War II on up to defend American democracy. Now, we take democracy kind of for granted. But the truth is, democracy is a very, very radical idea. And what that means is that in the course of world history, almost always you had a king or a queen or a czar. Those guys made the decisions. You're going off to war. I said you're going off to war. You're paying taxes. I'm taking your land. I made that decision. It doesn't matter what you think or what happens to your life. What democracy is about is saying that all of us together have the right to determine the future of this country. But in the last election in November 2014, 63% of the American people didn't vote. 80% of young people didn't vote. And what happens when ordinary people, working people, low-income people, middle-class people, young people don't vote, that political vacuum is filled by wealthy campaign contributors and lobbyists who say, hey, this is great. Young people aren't voting. That is fantastic. We can now make the decisions for this country. Older people are not voting. That's great. Because the world changes when you have a handful of billionaires making the decisions as opposed to ordinary Americans making the decisions. So what this campaign is about is calling for a political revolution. And what that means is no president, not Bernie Sanders, not anybody else can do it alone. Why is that? And I'll tell you why. And this is a truth that many politicians will not tell you. The truth is that Wall Street, corporate America, the corporate media, large campaign donors have so much influence over the political and economic system of our country today that no president, not the best intentioned in the world, can take them on. The only way we take them on is when millions of people, black and white and Latino and Native Americans and Asian Americans, gay and straight, men and women, when people stand up and when they demand something which is not really terribly radical, when they demand that the United States government starts representing ordinary Americans rather than wealthy campaign contributors. When that happens, we transform America. That's what this campaign is about. Now, over the last 9.5 months since we began this campaign, a lot has changed. When I began the campaign, what the pundits were saying, well, they say, Bernie, you comb your hair really great. You wear your GQ outfit here. You have all the requirements to be the president. But two things. Number one, to run for president in this day and age, you need a huge, and I say huge, amount of money. Just need hundreds of millions of dollars, if not more than that. We made a decision early on, a very important decision, which distinguishes my campaign from my opponent's campaign. And what we said is, we do not represent the billionaire class. We do not represent corporate America. We do not represent Wall Street. We do not want their money. We are not going to have a super PAC. Well, that's a great speech to give, but then the next question is, how do you raise the money you need to run a winning campaign? Thank you very much. The answer is grassroots. That's right. So we did something that is unprecedented in politics today. What we said is, look, we're not going to go to billionaires' homes and raise millions of dollars. We're going to ask middle class and working families of this country for their help. And you know what's happened in the last 9 months? We have received over 4 million individual contributions. And that is more than any candidate in the history of this country up to this point at election. And do you know what the average campaign contribution is? It's a great university, very smart people. $27. And all of the political geniuses out there, they're figuring out, they're saying, how could it be? How can you actually run a winning campaign with an average contribution of $27? But I think what people are saying is not only are they supportive of what we're fighting for, but they're saying something else. They're saying we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that billionaires do not buy elections in the United States of America. And I'll tell you what else has been going on. When we began the campaign, we were at 3% in the polls. Very few people outside of my own state of Vermont actually knew who I was, let alone what we were fighting for. We have come a long way in the last 9 months. In the last week or so, there were 3 national polls that actually had us in the lead. And when you do some of these polls, which has Bernie Sanders against Trump or Hillary Clinton against Trump, almost all of those polls have us beating Trump by wider margins. Now, Ohio, as you all know, is one of the important political states in this country. You're having a primary here on March 15th. With your help, we can win this primary and help us go forward to victory. Now, I think the reason that we have come so far and are doing so well is pretty simple. We're doing something very, very radical. We're telling the American people the truth. Now, I know that that is a radical idea, but hey, and that is what we are saying is, look, before this country, before any country can go forward, you got to really look honestly at the problems and the realities, even if they are unpleasant realities. You know, unless you look at what goes on, you don't have a foundation in which to go forward. And what we have been doing in this campaign is listening to ordinary people, not just big money contributors. We are listening to millions of workers in this country who are telling us they cannot make it on $9 or $10 an hour. And I have been proud to be out on picket lines with fast food workers who are saying just that, saying, you know, we have families to raise. We can't do it on $10 an hour. We need decent health care. And I have been proud to stand with them in the fight for $15 an hour and the right to organize a union. So when we talk about America and we understand the massive levels of income and wealth inequality, where the top one-tenth of 1% now owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%, in America, we can create an economy where if you work 40 hours a week, you are not living in poverty. And in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, we should not be having millions of senior citizens and disabled veterans